Welcome to another episode of You Can't Make This Stuff Up with Dr. Mark. In this episode, I examine the recent failure of the United States Senate to advance legislation that would provide relief to veterans of our armed forces who are suffering from illnesses caused by exposure to emissions from burn pits that were used to dispose of toxic materials in foreign countries where they were deployed. Yahoo News has reported that until the mid-2010s, burn pits were commonly used in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other overseas locations to dispose of toxic waste collected on military bases. That included items that produced dangerous toxic smoke when burned, such as plastics, rubber, chemical mixtures, and medical waste. In some locations, the fires were massive operations. For example, at Joint Base Balad, one of the largest military bases in Iraq, the burn pit covered nearly 10 acres, with the resulting smoke passing over the entire base as winds shifted. In 2008, the independent news source Military Times began reporting about service members returning from war zones with unusual respiratory illnesses that they believed were linked to the toxic fumes. Since then, numerous studies and reports have suggested links between the poor air quality from burn pits and rare cancers found in increasing numbers among post-9/11 veterans. The Department of Defense has estimated that nearly 3.5 million troops from recent wars may have suffered enough exposure to the smoke to cause health problems. The Veterans Burn Pits Exposure Recognition Act of 2021 was introduced into the United States Senate on February 24, 2021. The bill would require the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA, to concede, for the purposes of health care benefits and wartime disability compensation, that a veteran was exposed to certain toxic substances, chemicals, and hazards from burn pits if the veteran served on active duty in a covered location during a specific time frame, unless there was affirmative evidence to establish that the veteran was not exposed during his or her service. The bill covers the following locations and corresponding time periods: Iraq between August 2, 1990 and February 28, 1991, as well as from March 19, 2003, until burn pits were no longer used there. Southwest Asia, including Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and Qatar, from August 2, 1990, until burn pits were no longer used there, and Afghanistan, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, Lebanon, Yemen, and Djibouti from September 11, 2001 until burn pits were no longer used at those locations. Under the bill, if an exposed veteran submits insufficient evidence to establish a service connection for purposes of disability compensation, the VA is required to provide a medical examination and request a medical opinion regarding a causal link between the disability and a toxin, chemical, or hazard. A very similar bill had been introduced in the House of Representatives. The House bill was called the PACT Act, and it received significant bipartisan support. The House bill passed first by a vote of 256 to 174 and was sent on to the Senate. The PACT Act bill initially enjoyed strong bipartisan support in the Senate. Some minor amendments to the bill were made in the Senate, after which the Senate voted 84 to 14 to send it back to the House for final approval. It looked like relief for our veterans who had been impacted by burn pits would be coming soon. However, it was discovered in the House that the bill, as passed by the Senate, required a minor correction to avoid a possible problem with our tax laws. That correction was made, and the bill was sent back to the Senate for final approval. It was here in the Senate where the bill stalled, even though it initially had overwhelming bipartisan support from the senators. The final bill required at least 60 votes to pass because of the Senate's filibuster rule, but now partisan politics reared its ugly head. The Senate had recently passed and sent on to the House a bill providing for major financial support for the American semiconductor industry to counter the monopoly China has been developing in this area. Republicans in the Senate had voted for the so-called CHIP bill with the understanding that there would be no budget reconciliation bill in the Senate. A budget reconciliation bill is a major spending bill that originates in the House of Representatives and requires only a simple majority vote in the Senate to pass. For months, it had appeared that any budget reconciliation bill was dead on arrival in the Senate because of the opposition of West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin to a variety of provisions addressing climate change issues and others providing for tax increases on corporations and the very wealthy. But lo and behold, after the CHIP Act was passed and sent to the House, Senator Manchin reached an agreement with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on a somewhat stripped-down version of the House reconciliation bill that still included some provisions addressing climate change and some tax increases on corporations and billionaires. This made Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and several of the Republican senators livid. Because several Republican senators had their knickers in a knot over Manchin's agreement with Schumer on the reconciliation bill, when the PACT Act came up for a procedural vote on this past Wednesday, July 27, 2022, it could only garner 55 yea votes, not enough to pass. Some Republican senators even were seen exchanging fist bumps over their ability to stall the burn pit bill. Needless to say, veterans and the families of veterans affected by burn pit-caused illnesses were outraged by the behavior of these Republican senators. In addition, comedian Jon Stewart, who has become a champion for both 9/11 first responders exposed to toxins from working on the World Trade Center pile, and for veterans exposed to burn pit toxins, also was outraged by the failure of the procedural vote, and in a rant that went viral on the internet, he called out several senators by name who voted against the bill on July 27th. Now, it's widely expected that the burn bill eventually will pass in the Senate and be signed into law, given that Republicans can ill afford further angering veterans and their families. However, in my opinion, their childish behavior probably already has cost them some votes. Thanks for watching, and remember, you can't make this stuff up. If you haven't done so already, I would appreciate it greatly if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, please view some of my other videos. Again, thanks for watching.